much more famous verse, the first karika or stanza from a 9th century tantric work called the Spanda Karikas. Some of you have taken my telecourse in which we explored all 42 verses of this, or stanzas of this wonderful, wonderful writing attributed to the sage Kalata, Kashmiri master. And Spanda being vibration is the vibration of consciousness. We're talking about Shakti again, but the relationship of Shakti to Shiva. And this first stanza is so widely quoted, so venerated, that the great tantric master that came later in the 11th century, Sri Kshemaraja, even more famous than Kalata, says that all you need is this first verse. It encapsulates everything you need to know about what Tantra is. Yasyon mesha nimesha abhyam jagataha pralayoda yao tam shakti chakra vibhavam prabhavam shankaram stumaha. We praise that auspicious one, Shiva, who is the consciousness behind the cycles of energy, Shakti. By the expansion of Shakti, the universe appears, and through her contractions, the universe is reabsorbed. End quote. Okay, what's so special about this particular verse? Well, it's both the macrocosm and the microcosm. When we think about the cycles of energy, the Shakti chakra being born and dissolving, we're talking about, of course, reality itself, because everything that can be experienced with our senses is moving in a cycle. And that cycle is embodied within the dance of Shiva, the Shiva Nataraja, and the cycles of time are encapsulated perfectly within this particular form. And this particular drawing here by the great artist Ekabumi, and there's a chance at the end of this, I think the end of this presentation, to get his website. All of these drawings, by the way, are available. I love this one of the dancing Nataraj because he's sort of put a spotlight on the figure of Shiva dancing irrespective of the aureole of flame that we normally see. And the accoutrements in his hands that pertain to this verse of the Spanda Karikas are clearly depicted. So we have the cycle of time. What are the cycles of time? The first is creation. Anything that is in existence, of course, had to come into being. And that's represented by the drum in the Nataraja's upper right hand, or for us, the left hand facing. But his upper right hand, the drum, the tick, tick, tick of the heartbeat, the drum being the most primal, of course, the oldest instrument probably ever known, the rhythmic vibration of time and space, creativity. In his upper left hand, we see the little burst of flame, and that, of course, is destruction. Shrishti, creation, and samhara, destruction, or dissolution as the flame, the drum and the flame. Within this is the dance, and we see Shiva rooted with that face of bliss, of Ananda, Chamatkara Ananda, the astonishment, the astonishing bliss of being in the center of this dance, recognizing that if we are alive, we have to experience birth and death. Everything that is in express form is in this rhythmic cycle. And yet, he says, do not be afraid. The palm facing outward, abhaya mudra, fearlessness gesture. Don't be afraid of birth and death. You are immortal. And in fact, this image of Shiva dancing is the dance of your soul itself, the soul within all human beings. Imagine for a moment, outside of all the stories of the mind, which, we could argue the mind is active as it is because it's afraid of death. It's afraid of losing a sense of self, or it's looking to create a self out of an impermanent flux. But the self is permanent. The soul is immortal. And Shiva gesticulates this with his palm facing outward. He says, take refuge in me, points to his stretched foot. This is Refuge Pose. Take refuge in me, but I am you. That is to say, through the practice of our innovative yoga in terms of Tantra, take refuge in the lotus heart of yourself. The very soul essence, that which you are looking for, is the one who is looking. And yes, the dance of life is wild, destructive, creative, and that is represented by the dreadlocks flying, the jatas, the dreads flying maniacally behind him. Life is harsh, life is fast, life is fleeting, but life is a dance. If we could learn to see it that way without gripping to a dance of impermanence, instead just dance it without trying to create a sense of permanence, a sense of self here, rather enjoying the self as it dances in this thing we have called a body. This is the Nataraj in its most intimate understanding.